Smoker and Sugar debuted on the 28th of November 2020 to continue the releases of super types into the game. This batch of characters lack an overall theme, as these characters were originally part of a poll to allow players to select a future Sugo-Fest exclusive character. The characters in this batch include Emporio Ivankov, Miraculous Engineer of the Human Body, Big Eater, Jewelry Bonnie, Worst Generation in Hiding, and Master Caesar, Gas Fruit User. And the Sugo-Fest exclusive character we'll discuss today focused on providing an attack and slot effect boost that could be extended for multiple turns via the use of his super type. Introducing Smoker the White Hunter, sailor with an unwavering sense of justice. In this series, we'll be traveling back in time to experience some of the older Sugo-Fest exclusive characters in their prime, aiming to show just what it was like to use these characters on their debut. I hope you enjoy the video, and without further ado, let's enter the Legends of OPTC. So thank you very much for checking out yet another episode of the Legends of OPTC, and in today's video we're looking at the quick super type release. So obviously we just come off of that big celebration with Strength and Int, we just had the Kid and Hawkins stuff for Dex, and now we move on to the quick typing. The quick typing got some very interesting units. Now the thing about this is that the batch of units that you see here, this batch of units were actually, I think way back when, there was a poll where people could vote for which character they wanted to see as a Sugo-Fest exclusive. And I think in that poll, these characters were all here, where you had Ivankov, Bonnie, Caesar, you had Sugar, and Smoker. And in that poll, obviously Smoker had won, and I think Sugar might have been in that poll as well, and she might have been like the second voted. So people really didn't care for a Caesar, people did not care for an Ivankov. Of course, Bonnie eventually did get a legend. I guess technically, yeah, Ivankov also got a legend, but much later. So yeah, very interesting batch, as these characters don't really have like a ton of synergy overall, like in terms of the theming of the batch. It's just a random hodgepodge, random batch of random units. So let's go ahead and break down all of these characters. So first of which, we have like a bunch of other units here, like Yukimaru was the free-to-play unit. This Blackbeard, I believe, was also free-to-play. I believe he was for the Rumble of that season, as when they used to give out free Rumble characters. And then the rare recruit started here with Ivankov. So Ivankov, obviously being quick, free spirit fighter. Captain ability doesn't really matter. Resisting special bind on themselves by 3 turns. It says it reduces your crew's HP by 1%, which I guess technically still could be good to get around the stun debuff. And then it would provide an attack boost to your quick and int characters 1.75 for 3 turns. And then it would also provide a 1.75 times color affinity boost for quick and int characters for 3 turns. After 3 turns had passed, reduces the attack of all of your characters by 50% for 10 turns. Very strange ability here, where it actually gives your team attack down for 10 turns. Now, while that is terrible, we'll talk more about it in a moment in regards to ways you can mitigate that actual effect. So yeah, very weird effect, and I mean, to be honest, this character never really saw any play. I don't really understand why they have the special bind removal on themselves. Doesn't make a ton of sense, but it is what it is. A very weird rare recruit overall. Next we have Jewelry Bonnie, who is also quick, free spirit, and fighter. Again, captain doesn't really matter. Makes recovery slots beneficial for quick units, which could be quite good. And then this special ability was definitely much better, reducing 5 turns of bind and despair duration, and then 1.75 times attack for 1 turn. After 1 turn had passed, your quick characters receive a 2 times attack boost. Definitely a lot better than the Ivankov, but still not a great rare recruit overall. She did have the effect of slot bind and pinch healing. Eventually she got the hunger ability, which makes sense. But overall, like again, a pretty mediocre rare recruit that no one really cared about. Next we have Caesar Clown here. Caesar is a quick cerebral slasher. Again, nothing really too noteworthy in the captain effect. Resisting special reverse by 2 turns is interesting. It does a 10% health cut, so damage dealing special, reduces the cooldown of your quick and int characters by 1 turn, and then changes block, recovery, tandem slots into matching, locks the slots for 1 turn, and provides a chain boost. So this is a really interesting ability. I mean, dealing with cooldown, orb change, orb lock, chain boost. actually a pretty useful character that saw some niche play for sure. Wasn't like the greatest rare recruit ever, but definitely the most interesting of all of the rare recruits in this batch. In terms of potential abilities, what did he get? Strength damage reduction, slot bind, eventually got Sailor Despair removal, which makes sense. But overall, again, like the rare recruits in this batch weren't the highlight. People didn't care about the rare recruits that much. We'll talk about Sugar next week. She's definitely the more exciting of the two legends. So we'll start off with Smoker. He was the headliner unit of this celebration. So a lot of people were excited for this because this is Smoker's first and I guess only Sugo-Fest exclusive up until this point as of the recording of this video. So Legend Smoker here is a quick striker and a driven character. His captain ability, very, very simple. Obviously, captain abilities were a lot more simple back in the day. Quick characters get 4 times attack with 1.3 times HP, and then boost the attack of quick characters by an additive 0.2 for each perfect in a row, max of 5x. Of course, after you hit 5 perfects, your 6th character in the chain gets that 5 times attack boost. So you want to consistently hit as many perfects as possible. Now, when you use him as a captain, you'll get access to his superclass ability. In order to activate it, you just need an attack boost or an orb boost. That's it. You can use it for even like a switch ability, a support effect triggering, any of those effects that as long as you have some kind of attack boost or some kind of orb boost, that you don't have to have both, you just need one or the other, and then it gets activated. The effect increases the duration of any attack and orb boost by 1, and then quick becomes super quick. That's all it does. So again, nothing amazing, because if you're using him as a captain, you have attack and HP boost, and then you have a super type that can extend the duration of your attack and orb buffs. Obviously, what you're seeing here, it's not that exciting. You move on to the special, which is the most exciting part of his kit, where it's a damage dealing special, which is great. And then this bit here where it applies a burn and attack down immunity for 5 turns. I believe this was the first character in the game to do this. So essentially when you launch the special, you know how enemies will sometimes have immunity to certain debuffs? This puts that on your side of the field. So when you activate the special for the next 5 turns, you cannot be inflicted with burn or attack down. Which is where the effect of Ivankov would come into play. Where Ivankov has the ability where it says after 3 turns have passed, you get 50% attack down for 10 turns. If you've activated Smoker beforehand, where you get the immunity buff for 5 turns, this will block the debuff that the rare recruit Ivankov would place on your team. Now, moving past that, it would also provide your crew with an orb boost if you have an attack buff already activated, giving your quick units a 2.5 times orb boost. But if you don't have an attack boost activated, then you get a 2.5 times attack boost. So it does have reduced redundancy, where if you run 2 smokers, you can have one give you an attack boost, and then the other one would, normally only give you an attack boost, but with the reduced redundancy special, you'll get an orb boost instead. And then, of course, they only last for 1 turn, but if you have 2 smokers, you activate both super types, you can have the 2.5 times attack and orb boost for 3 turns. So that is the goal. That's what they want you to do with this character. It's not very exciting overall. He's not really that good in Rumble. His support effect has seen some play in the past, attaching to any quick unit, and as long as it's a damage dealing special, it gives your quick units a 1.75 times attack boost. So honestly, since Smoker's release, he has definitely seen way more play as a support on teams rather than actually being on the team itself. Now, albeit this effect to provide immunity to your crew is pretty useful, and hopefully he does receive a 6+ and level limit break in the future, which could potentially, enhance the usability of his special. But as it stands right now, Smoker's just a mediocre character that doesn't really see that much play. But I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into some content utilizing Legend Smoker as our dedicated captain. Alright, so we are in game right now with my man Legend Smoker. Now, because he actually hasn't received a 6+ or a level limit break yet, we can just go ahead and use my own Smoker. Yes, he is at level 150, but it doesn't really make that much of a difference. Now, the team that you see here is extremely obscure. Very, very odd team, but there is a reason behind it, and we're going to go through it today. So I want to give a huge shout out to Nháº, who is the original creator of this team, and this was kind of like a speed farming team for when Gyukimaru Coliseum first came out. This was the Coliseum that debuted alongside the Smoker and Sugar batch. So we may showcase Sugar next week in this same content, just because this content is actually designed fantastically for Legend Sugar, and I really want to showcase what she's capable of doing. But looking into how Smoker can kind of deal with this is just such an awesome team that I wanted to showcase it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. So yeah, as I said, this team is kind of focused around speed farming this as like honestly as fast as you possibly possibly can. So, unfortunately, now that I'm kind of realizing it, it's actually not going to work as intended, because back when this content first came out, characters like Smoker, Sugar, Kuma, these characters all received cooldown reduction at the start of the quest. And unfortunately, they don't this time around, because they wanted to kind of like make it so that the new characters were like easier to use in content. So, you know how, you know, in most modern content, you have characters that are like point boosters and they get more points if you use them in content. Well, back when, you know, point booster content wasn't really a thing, the only way that they could really highlight in using new units in content was to just make their specials maxed almost at the start of the content. So, unfortunately, this is not going to be as fast as I had planned, because we do have to do a little bit of stall. But once we get to, you know, the point in time where we can actually start activating some of our specials, it's going to be pretty much easy going from that point onwards. But just imagine, right? Just imagine that, you know, this team with all the specials maxed at the start, yeah, it would be a pretty fast team. We are almost ready to go. I'm pretty sure, yeah, we can absolutely blaze through it right here. So, this Colosseum Kid, by the way, for those of you who are uninitiated with what this character is all about, this was arguably one of the best free-to-play characters that had ever come out, because as long as you had a shooter or a striker captain, he enabled you to speed farm content like crazy, just because of the end of turn damage that he would do. So you could just go ahead and pass the turn, and then that AoE damage was basically just wave clearing content. The cool thing about it though is that Kid had the potential ability of making his special ready at the start of content, which obviously made him extremely usable basically on every team. So here we go with this guy, Tenguyama Hitetsu. So this guy here, he's going to do some nasty stuff, but we're going to be able to get through it pretty comfortably here. So of course he's going to go ahead and slot bind our characters, but that's not going to be that big of an issue. This is exactly why we brought Perona. So Perona's special ability, again, another random free-to-play unit, but it's actually pretty useful for what we're doing here. So it provides some orb change, and it also reduces enemies' defense. And with the Doflamingo support, because it is a driven character that provided an orb changing special, it will trigger that support to provide our driven characters with a 1.75 times orb boost. And then from here, we can just go ahead and kill, because the enemy essentially has no defense. And remember that we want to try and hit as many perfects as we can to give the most amount of damage to Smoker. Okay, there we go. So Hitetsu, one special, down. And now we go to Zorojiro. Now, another thing about this content that's interesting is that if you activate an attack or an orb boost on the final stage, nasty things happen. Which is why this Colosseum was actually a little bit tricky on release, but Smoker kind of handled it a little bit because of the way that he is kind of designed. So let's go ahead and first use Kuma. So Kuma is going to remove the special bind that's on our team, which is fantastic. We kind of need that. It also provides the ability of color affinity boost. So it's going to make our quick units hit even harder against this Zorojiro. And then we can go ahead and use the special ability of Tashigi here, which will change the block slots on our team into matching. Tashigi is a limited rare recruit and was only available on very specific banners back in the day. So Tashigi was definitely a more difficult character to get your hands on, but was definitely valuable to own. Let's go ahead and now use our Smoker. So this is where Smoker's going to come in clutch here. So of course his special ability, as we know, it provides us with damage, it provides an immunity against burn and attack down, and then it also gives us that 2.5 times attack boost. And then by activating our secondary Smoker special ability, it's going to provide the exact same thing, except instead of the attack boost, it's going to be an orb boost instead. He's actually got a really cool special animation, all things considered. I really hope this guy gets a 6+ or something in the future, because he really deserves it. And the thing is, like, Smoker just really does hardly anything that, with a 6+ and level limit break, they really should be giving him some pretty crazy buffs, I would expect anyway. Okay, so at this point, we can go ahead and activate our super type of Smoker, which will go ahead and extend the duration of our attack boost and our orb boost by 1 turn. And then, of course, more importantly, well, I guess as equal as importantly, getting quick super type on our quick units so that they're going to be doing even more damage towards these strength enemies. Now, with all of this activated, we have some matching slots here, and we do have the orb block on Kuma, so we want to make sure that Kuma is going to be our main damage dealer against Smoker, because we don't want to consume these slots, okay? So here we go. Nice, okay. So Kuma was able to get the knockout there. We got the rainbow chest, which is even better. And then here we are at the boss stage versus Gyukimaru. So Gyukimaru actually does like some really annoying stuff. So you can see that he'll actually go ahead and bind our middle row, and he'll go ahead and paralyze our bottom row. So you would typically want some pretty decent utility to get around these nasty gimmicks here, on top of the fact that if you activated an attack boost or an orb boost, he would remove your beneficial effects and he would slot bind your team for 20 turns. Obviously, something that you don't want to deal with. You can see there's also a tap limit, so you can only tap with 5 characters. You can't tap with all 6 of them. We have some key supports triggering here to remove the bind. We had the ace support, which granted us a 1.3 times color affinity boost. We do still have Tashigi's chain lock from the previous stage. Now, because we can only attack with a couple of characters, chain lock is going to be extremely valuable here, which is obviously why we have it. Also, Kid being a dex unit is kind of important because those matching slots that we saved from earlier, that dex slot is going to enable us to break through this barrier, and then we can finish with our quick units and hopefully do as much damage as we possibly can. So, essentially, we don't even have to activate anything on this final stage, we just have to attack. So, this should be pretty straightforward, I would think. Alright, let's get it. Oh my god, I missed! What am I doing? For some reason, I tapped in the middle of the screen because I thought I had to tap in the middle of the screen, you know, when you finish all your perfects. But for some reason, I tapped in the middle when I should have tapped with one of the other units. What am I doing? Oh my god, that is so stupid. Literally, I just had to tap the other unit. Do I really have to run through this content again? Do I really have to run through this content again? Oh my god, dude. Okay, so I've run it back. We have the team ready to go again. So let's actually do it properly this time, okay? Let's do it properly. There we go. It is now done. Okay, so that was a little bit of a hiccup there, but we got it done at the end. So yeah, pretty cool video. I mean, Smoker, he just needs a little bit more love and support. I mean, as we mentioned, he needs a 6+. He needs the Super Evo. He needs level limit break. He needs a lot of support, right? But moving on into next week's video, next week is going to be really fun as we cover definitely one of the more popular Sugo-Fest exclusives that's ever released in the game's history, I think, being Legend Sugar. A lot of people are big fans of this character's design, so I'm looking forward to showcasing what this character is all about in next week's video. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this one, and if you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.